and welcome to Check 1 2, where we share stories of survivors, advocates and supporters of testicular cancer awareness, all recorded here at the world famous Podcast Studio Glasgow. In this episode, I'm joined by Louise Ballantyne, exercise and rehabilitation specialist, cancer advocate and someone whose life has been shaped by cancer. Her late father's battle with the disease inspires her work, and she's dedicated to helping people rebuild strength in the body and of the mind after such a serious illness. Louise opens up about the physical and emotional journey post-diagnosis, from rehabilitation challenges to the mental health impact, and why movement is more than just exercise. It's a form of reclaiming your identity. We dive into the stigma around male health, the often hidden battles that people face, and how personal experience can fuel a purpose. It's candid, heartfelt, and it's a conversation about resilience, recovery, and finding strength when life throws the hardest challenges your way. And to remember that you can always do this together. This is Louise Ballantyne. Thank you so much for coming on Check 1 2.
You are so welcome.
It's
Thanks
great.
for having me.
No, it's awesome, and it's nice to. We've only had kind of one other female on the podcast, so to have
privileged.
Yeah, to have female voices on it, it does help, because I think that yes, as we talk about testicular cancer and things like that, we find that it's been predominantly a male disease. We can't get away from that, but we need female voices to help amplify that, because, as you kind of know, men are awful at looking after their health. So, and I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you.
So, I think just kind of before we kind of get into it, just tell us, a bit about Omni, a bit about yourself, your background, and kind of what made you kind of start on the journey that you're now on.
Okay. So it's a bit of a long one, to be honest, but my background is in community learning and development, so working with mainly young people, some adult education programmes and stuff, but I've always had that passion to help people that are facing barriers to something. So a lot of what I was doing in a past life was, I worked in prisons, I worked in schools, and it was kind of working with people who face vulnerabilities or difficulties, challenges, trauma, and helping them improve their overall lifestyle. So a lot of it was health related, some of it was around employability, but it became a kind of second job when I got right into fitness myself. So I kind of started my own fitness journey back when I was at university, and became a bit obsessed, to be honest, but that's probably a conversation for another day, taking things to the extreme. But since then, I qualified as a PT in 2014. So kind of worked with general population, helping people drop body fat, get fitter, healthier, achieve goals. I was quite heavily involved in obstacle course racing. So around that type of thing. And I always knew that there was a way of me using the skills and values that I'd got from the degree and from the jobs that I'd done in the community within a health and fitness setting. Yeah. And that ultimately is what Omni has evolved into now. It's breaking barriers to those that want to improve their health and wellness, but can't for whatever reason, and for various factors. When it comes to the cancer rehabilitation, it's a bit more of a personal journey. So my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer back in 2019. His prognosis wasn't great from the start. It was liver cancer, specifically in the bile ducts. And movement was one of the things that we used together to build memories and have time together during a time that he didn't have much time. Yeah. So we went out on kayaks, we went up hills, and on the bad days I made sure that he was getting out in the garden for a walk and things. And I saw how much movement lit him up, even through the hard times of chemo and when he was feeling very rough with side effects and stuff. It was the one thing that kind of kept him going, and that kind of inspired me to specialise in that side of the personal training. So a lot of what I do now is online, which is great because I can work with anybody, anywhere. Yeah. But I offer hybrid sessions as well, so I've got a wee gym at my home, which I have a lot of people travel to me for, just with the type of work. So we'll look at specifics during a session and then they go away and they're implementing it at home. But a lot of what I'm doing isn't actually just the exercise. the whole cancer rehabilitation covers all aspects of somebody's wellness. A lot of what I'm coaching in is mindset, it's nutrition, it's the kind of bigger picture stuff, because ultimately we can't have fitness, we can't have that overall movement ability without being in the right place mentally too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what was it that when you, like, so were you all sporty kind of growing up, or what made you jump to like getting into fitness and then spark that obsession then? What was it?
Honestly, I was the kid that forged my mum's signature on a weekly basis to get out of doing PE. Like, it just was not for me. The thought of getting a sweat on and then having to go back to class was just not the one for me. Exercise to me was floating about the pool in the hot tub or the jacuzzi with my mates on a Friday night and then having a walk home kind of thing. Like, that was exercise. I did get into, so it was one of my flatmates at uni was like, do you want to come and play netball? And I'd played it a little bit at school and I did enjoy it. It was just the whole, well, I'm kind of not into it. I don't want to push myself. The thought of that wasn't great. So yeah, got into playing netball, and then she kind of pushed me into joining the gym, which I had tried to do with my dad over the years when I was younger. And was like, oh yeah, it's good for me, I'll go. But honestly, I spent most of my uni days out partying, as a lot of people do or did back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of a bit of a sideline while I was at uni, and then left uni. And one of my mates started doing local classes. And at that point, it was when high intensity interval training was huge. And it got to a point that I was doing about 3 a day. I do not recommend to anybody ever. But I was doing about 3 a day, and then decided to go and qualify just because I saw it as being a bit of a hobby, like a way of making. I had a mate that lived in Dubai at the time. She worked for Emirates, and it was a wee pocket money kind of sideline to get me to Dubai a few times a year. So yeah, but definitely wasn't the one that had exercise instilled into me.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing with most people of kind of our age and generation. It's like you look at them now, like kids are so health conscious and fitness conscious that like. They're at the gym more often than you don't see as many people hanging around the streets, and there might be an element of like the computers and all that, but actually, like, I think knowing even within my son's peer group, the amount of them who go to the gym on a regular basis is so different from us. And I think that's one of probably the biggest obstacles that kind of we've found when we're speaking to guys who are my age, so I'm 41, and having their surgery and things like that. It's finding a way to move again.
Yeah.
And people look at the gym and it's a horrific space. So I suppose it's, when we talk about that holistic part of it, and the people that you've coached, and what's that link then for that physical and mental health that can try and propel people to look after their physical health better?
I think, to touch on what you said about the gym, first of all, the gym is daunting. Like, I have travelled around quite a lot for work and stuff, and the amount of times that with my experience and working in gyms and whatever, and I've walked into a place and gone, oh, I really don't want to train here, and just felt a bit out of place, felt uneasy about being in there. And it's no surprise that they make people feel like that. Like, if you've not been brought up in that environment, most of them are big, they're loud, there's a lot of people, there's these machines that you don't really know what you're doing with. You've seen people use them, but what do they do and how do they work? And if you've not got that knowledge, there's another barrier to getting into the gym. When it comes to fitness and mental health, and especially after or going through a cancer journey, I think it's so important, and I'll probably say this so many times, but start small. Like, you don't need, if you've not been, so if you going through your cancer journey, if you were going to the gym before, 100% keep going to the gym. Like, keep doing that. It's obviously something you enjoy. You've got a routine, a consistency. But if it's not something you've been doing, it's probably not the time to walk into the gym and try and overcome that, because there's such a big mental health struggle through a cancer journey anyway, without adding in something else that's so new and so big and so daunting. So it's kind of starting that journey wherever you're at, or starting as small as you need to start, and then building up. And if it is the gym you want to go to, we can get you in the gym. But it's not for everybody. You don't need a gym to get results and reap the benefits of exercise. And I guess the kind of mindset and mental health thing, a lot of coaches will kind of say, right, we've got this exercise plan and on you go and follow it, whether it's at home or in a gym or classes or whatever. But if your mindset, if your mental health is not in a place that you've got the resilience, you've got the discipline, you've got the motivation to do it, you're never going to be successful at holding down that routine of structured exercise. And that's why it has to come hand in hand. And for those on a cancer journey or not, like, it's so important that we look at them both as a bigger picture and join them up a bit better. I think cancer and mental health often come separately, and they should be the same, because you're told you've got cancer, that's very much going to impact your mind. So just making a bit of a better connection between the two.
It's something that I've kind of said both privately, and I think I have on here as well, is I think I feel the same. You know, I can't fault any part of my physical health and the way it was looked after by my GP to the oncologist to the people at the Beatson, right? Can't fault that. However, when my treatment was done and I was basically kind of finished for longer periods of time in between getting chemo to then going from, right, you're just going to need scans. When that process started to, elongate, it was at that point I started feeling that my mental health was starting to struggle.
Yep.
And there was no pickup from that. And the only way that would be picked up really would be if I referred myself to either my GP to speak about this or my local mental health nurse. But when you've not got that confidence to do that, and I think that's something that within, cancer journeys really does need to be looked at as well.
It does. Unfortunately, I have found working with people from across the country, it's a bit of a postcode lottery still. Like, there will be people that, the Beatson, for example, is amazing. Like, it's such an empowering place to be throughout that journey. There's a lot of centres similar across the country, but not everywhere does have somewhere like that. So it's it should be kind of standardised in care. For example, with exercise, there are a number now of GPs and oncologists and various health professionals who are recommending it, and they'll signpost people to groups and programmes and stuff. But there's still a lot, and it's something that really bothers me, of people who don't even realise that they can move their bodies in some way when they're going through that cancer journey. It's not kind of standardised advice. It is dependent on who you see and where you are. And so many people say the same thing you have. Like, it's kind of towards the end of treatment that you're almost just expected to go back to normal. Like, within your own little community groups, even like your family, your friends, often they're like, oh, so you're finished. Is that great? You're all better. And actually, whoa, like, you've just had a massive life change. It's going to take a lot to come through that. Like, we're not going to do these things. If it wasn't a cancer diagnosis and it was something practical, I'm going to use moving house, right? Meant to be one of the most stressful things, and I can vouch for that, to be fair. You go through that, you don't just get in your house and you're like, oh, well, it's done. Like, we're finished. There's still stuff to deal with, but something as massive as a cancer diagnosis and going through treatment, it's going to impact you for a lot longer. Yeah. It is going to impact for a very, very long time, if not forever. The scanxiety every year of you going back for your checkups, your blood test, like, all of that is going to continue. And I think that's where it all comes into play. Like, we need this sort of standard approach of holistic care, regardless. Yeah.
And so, see, when you're, when you've got clients who are coming to you and they've had, illness, injury, or that kind of, or a cancer diagnosis, from your perspective, what's, the process of rebuilding, like, a confidence and a strength for them? What do you look for within? I know obviously there's going to have to be a holistic thing around that individual, but in a general way, what is it you kind of look to do?
It depends wholly on what they've been doing pre and during treatment, really, because as you say, it is very individualised, and without getting into the ins and outs of a person right now, it has to be something that is going to work for where they're at right now. Is that person going back to work yet? Because that's another huge step. If you've had time off work, back into that routine. What is your current home life like? Like, are you responsible for kids, an elderly parent? Like, that still all happen. Like, life still happens just because you're going through a cancer journey. So it's taken into account and consideration of all of those factors, and then starting where you are. That is ultimately the best advice I could give. And if you currently are not doing any movement, any form of physical activity, it's literally getting out for a 5-10 minute walk. That's enough, because anything that you do, yes, we can say that we want to be aiming for 150 minutes of exercise per week during and post treatment, right? But if you're only doing 1 minute by running up the stairs, whatever, anything more than that is going to be an advantage. You're going to make improvements, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's like the whole 10,000 steps, right? That's out there. The advice is there. There's science behind it. However, if you're somebody who does 1,000 steps in a day, that's a significant increase.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going to start doing 10,000 overnight. So it really is just looking at a person's current situation, circumstance. How is their cancer-related fatigue can go on for years? Like, there's so many things that can continue. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at that and starting as small as you need to. Like, if you're keen to get into the gym, go to the gym, but do body weight first. Like, you be there, use the act of going there to help build that routine into your life again and get consistent. But don't worry about the big machines until you know that you're confident to do squats without anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I take it is there lots out there, because obviously the operation for testicular cancer is that inguinal, so it's really kind of carving through that kind of lower abdomen, really kind of
quite invasive.
And then it's looking at, is there stuff that guys can do even just sitting in their chair, or because I know for me, when the first few days, and thankfully I changed painkiller, but I was walking like at a 45-degree angle,
just so sore,
and I feel like I wasn't doing anything because I couldn't. But is there stuff that people can do, just be like, that's even just simply sitting in the chair?
Yeah, so obviously specific to testicular cancer and that surgery, you normally are given a kind of rehab program to follow to rehabilitate post-surgery. So it's going to be specific core strength and stuff, but obviously taking care to not open the wound and things. There's so much you could be doing. Walking, honestly, regardless of the type of cancer, is so important. And it's such a basic free thing that we can all be doing more of, even when the weather's not great. Like, getting out in the weather to walk, in the rain to walk, that discipline to do that, regardless of what the weather's like, you're going to feel better after it. Like, I genuinely say to people, I'll put money on it. Right, I will actually give you money if you go and you tell me afterwards that you feel worse or you don't feel any better. Because it does help. But obviously the specifics to that operation, you're going to want to keep mobile because it's part of that recovery. Keep the blood flowing through. You sitting still or lying in bed isn't really going to benefit. Obviously there's a degree of that at the very beginning, but as soon as it's kind of medically safe for you to be up on your feet, walking to begin with, keeping that upper body and your lower body as strong as possible. Strength training throughout a cancer journey is so important as well. But the most kind of basic way to start moving more is up in that walking. Yeah,
and I think as well it's important, like, to say to especially guys who are going to watch this and they've either not had the surgery, that they're in the midst of it and they're watching this, is that there's extremes of how good you're going to feel after that surgery as well. For me, I struggled at the start of that, but then one of the guys we had on, Ewan was 2 weeks post surgery and ran 5 kilometres. So but I think that, but for me, you always hear like the positive. I think because people who are having negative experiences and don't feel that they're doing as much and doing as well, don't tend to want to say that. Don't say, no, I struggled with that. Whereas, so you'll always hear now, no, I was out and I was running this in X amount of time. And I remember when I first went back to the beats and I spoke to Jeff and he was asking me, how are you getting on and movement wise? I said, I'm still struggling a bit. And absolutely adore Jeff White. He was absolutely amazing for me. But within that point, he was like, oh, come on, you should be able to do a little bit more. And I felt really bad that I wasn't doing more, and I was really trying. I was genuinely really trying, but I think there is this. And then it was the talk about this guy who he knew who had his operation and was running a 10k for charity, you know.
Right.
And it's those extremes that make you feel almost bad about yourself, you know. And I know that wasn't his intention. It was to try and say, no, there is that there. But it's known that, like you said, it's small steps, you know, and I stupidly, this is honestly, you'll be like, oh, what is going on? So I remember joining, and I won't say the name of the gym, but a big Scottish chain gym, right?
Okay.
I joined the gym, and when I'm looking back, I must have been pretty kind of, because I had my chemo in the April, and my hair had grown back by the August, right? So in the picture at the gym, I was completely bald.
Okay.
So I must have been really quite in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And
Good
then
on you.
yeah, but I'd went to a body combat class.
Okay.
Right? So me and my wife went
Easing in,
right? So body combat class. Now, bearing in mind, I forgot in a sense that I had only had an operation 13 weeks ago. The instructor said, "Has anybody had any injuries or this, that?" And I'm looking around. No, nobody. Oh, great. I started going full gung-ho into this body combat class and then went, oh, something's wrong, and had to stop. And like, obviously my wound had got really swollen, and the instructor's like, you told me there was nothing. I said, yeah, I just forgot that I had this.
He did, or she would have been in an absolute panic at that point.
A complete panic. And my wife to this day, she says, Paul, I can't even believe that I didn't say to you, you've had this happen. So but I was pushed into that in a sense, but I tried to go gung-ho because I'd heard the stories of all these other people managing to do it. So it's like, don't do that. Don't be as silly as I was and try, you know.
There's such a thing just now around toxic positivity, right? And I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that term. However, in this sense, I think you can almost be so over positive, and that sounds really weird because we've got to be positive, and it's such a driver for recovery. But if people around you are like, oh, come on then, you can do more, and so managed to do that 10k, and so did this, and you're totally right, like that can almost be debilitating to somebody who is trying their bloody hardest, but they're still not getting that same result. And I think that's where it has to be a sort of individual process, in the sense that guy that was running 10k a few weeks post-op, I'm pretty certain, was running through his cancer. Like, I don't know who he was, but I'm pretty sure he would be running through his treatment. Yeah. He would be running pre-cancer. So 10k, he was maybe doing marathons at the start. And I think that's what we need to put into perspective almost. Like, if you're not running marathons and not running 10ks, you're not going to be running 10ks post-treatment. But if you haven't really been doing anything, then you getting out and going for that 10, 15-minute walk or whatever is massive. And you should be celebrating that as a win, not seeing it as a negative. Like, it is just that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the closest thing I ever got to a marathon was when it was, before it was a Snickers bar, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was marathon, so...
I mean, I have done a marathon, but I'll tell you what I'd prefer. It'd be the bar.
Aye. And oddly, I had to get some nuts, so that's just, it all ties in together.
It does.
But so, see, with, like, I suppose in your experience as well, you know, the likelihood of you coming across guys who have had testicular cancer is probably low, but because it hits kind of younger men, and it's you know, kind of peak fitness is really the kind of ages that it's hitting. What do you think, you know, stops guys, you know, from paying attention to their health, especially when something goes wrong? Is it something that's changing, or have you noticed that it's something that's very much a generational thing?
Good question, and one that I'm going to have to ponder on as I answer, I think. But I think it is a bit of a generational thing, because I do believe that it's getting better with the younger generation. So I'm mid-30s, nearer to 40 than 30. But the guys, my partner's the world's worst. Like, he's, at the minute, it's his tooth that's bothering him. I'm like, have you phoned the dentist yet? No. Have you phoned? No. And it's the same for anything with him. He just is in that, he's 41, he's in that generation of, it'll be fine, it'll go away itself, it'll get better. But I feel, and I'm not sure entirely why, but I feel younger. So my cousin was recently at the doctor's for something else, and he went without much thought. Like, he spoke to somebody, a friend or whatever, and they were like, you should go and get that checked out, and he did. And it was fine, it was nothing. But I'm seeing that more in the kind of mid-20s than we are in our generation for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think I always say if we can make a difference by doing this type of conversation to one person, then we're winning. And that goes for all cancers. And I think it's one of those things. So from a personal point of view, like I literally am going through this right now. So I noticed some changes last week to my breast. I went to the doctor yesterday. Literally, we're at the time of recording, we are in the midst of it, and I'm getting referred to the breast clinic. Now, me even doing this and knowing about what it could be and having the knowledge and the background and the experience, I genuinely was like, it's probably nothing. Like, I was breastfeeding till January this year, and I've had stress happening, and there's probably something else that's causing this. It's fine. And I sat in it for literally 24 hours before I laughed to myself and was like, whoa, if I can't advocate for myself here and go and actually get this checked, how can we improve that overall? So I did go. And it's the same with my dad's cancer journey. He actually didn't go for a long time either. He was getting some stomach issues and things, and he didn't go, and he eventually did go. And at that point, he kind of knew there's something not quite right because it had developed, it had got more serious. And it took then the GP so long to take him seriously that he then eventually got the diagnosis. And the type of cancer he had, his prognosis probably wasn't going to be great anyway, but it just gets you thinking about that whole delaying, and it'll be okay. And with men, like, is it that we're in this world of instant gratification, we're constantly doing, we're not really taking that, and this is not me discriminating against men because I know we're just as bad, but we're always doing something. There's always something else that takes priority that needs to be done, that we should be focusing on, going to work or the kids or whatever stage in life you're at. Younger people, I had a guy quite recently who was being trialled for a professional football team, and he put off being checked, and he again was fine, thankfully, but he put that whole process off because he didn't want it to impact his potential football career. And it's like, wait a minute, that could impact your career for way longer and way more seriously than actually just going to the doctors now.
And that happened to he was actually on the show as well. There's a football player called Henry Lansbury. So that he had the same thing. He found a lump, basically, you know, put it off going to see it because he was in the midst of contract negotiations, you know, and it was, which is
obviously such an important time in his career. But
your health as well, you
know,
and then if he had caught that earlier, would he had less treatment, and it's all that. And I think it's like anything. It's when I go in and I do school talks, I try to kind of equate, you know, doing your checks, if it's for your testicles or if it's for your breast, it's going to be the same thing. It's like you would, if you hurt your hamstring and you know you're prone to that, and you go, oh, there's something not quite right, you would go get that seen.
Of course.
You'd go get a sore shoulder seen. So why not? And it's that embarrassment. It's that, you know, and I think that's for the younger generation, it probably is an embarrassment thing. And then there's that switch of, like you said, other priorities then become. So it's trying to find a way to navigate, how do we change the mindset of embarrassment and also putting it off. And I think that's the kind of biggest issue we have.
Do you not find the way social media and stuff is now, and the amount of information that young people have got access to, there is a little less embarrassment than there might have been when we were at school? For example, I just think it's a pretty, like, everybody's seeing things online now that we wouldn't have seen when we were 10, 11, 12, 30, you know, early teens. And from my experience from a youth work perspective, so I used to deliver sexual health and stuff, and we were very much kind of, it was about their kind of well-being overall. It wasn't just about having sex, you know, it's that whole bigger picture around their health and their wellness. And I think because obviously that still happens, but kind of backing that up, there's stuff available online and on the internet and whatever. Not all great information, but it's there, and it's kind of is spoken about a little bit more. I'd like to think it'll make a difference.
No, I agree with you. I think especially my experiences going into school, when I first started in the job and those first initial school talks, I was dying. I was dreading it. Yeah, because I thought, I'm going in here, I'm going to have to talk about balls and testicles. And, you know, any school has got, you know, these group of young boys who are going to possibly treat it in a certain way. Yeah. And I remember the first school I went into, the teacher said, see this lot here, they're bampots. So just watch.
Tread carefully.
Tread carefully. And you know, they're absolutely amazing.
That's so good.
And I think that's obviously the stigma that, you know, the teachers who are my age give, because that's how we were. If I was in a sex ed class, I remember asking some wild questions because I was just trying to make my peers laugh. I was trying to embarrass the teacher. And to a school, even like I've went for, you know, private schools to schools that are in, you know, kind of more areas of deprivation, and not one pupil has been disrespectful. They've never been silly, and they've asked some really great questions.
That's amazing.
And I think you're right. I think that because there is that little bit more information and there is less embarrassment, it's great. It's trying to get, you know, guys who have missed that, you know,
absolutely,
and coming to now to engage in that, and that's really where, you know, our bread and butter is in terms of, especially when you're reaching out to businesses and workplaces to try and speak to guys, you know.
I think your approach when it comes to the school stuff, I know that you kind of make that personable and relatable to that age group, and that certainly helps too, because you're not, I remember it when I was at school and you were getting sex ed, and it was always the teacher was embarrassed. Yeah. So if the teacher's embarrassed, you're going to be embarrassed and you're going to play up. However, I still believe that even if they were, like, it's amazing that they weren't acting like that, but that's something that will be ingrained in their brains now, and hopefully as they grow older and are checking their balls and they're not helping each other physically, you know what I mean?
Listen.
Encouraging it and each other, then it will encourage them to seek help if and when they need it, you know?
Yeah, and I suppose it's exactly what, you know, you do, and it's that body awareness thing, isn't it? You know, and I suppose that's something that we don't hear as men, certainly, as talking about, like, body awareness. You know, is that something that, you know, throughout your time, you know, in, you know, being, sorry, I'm trying to think of the word I'm trying to use, being in the fitness industry, is that something that you've developed a kind of keener sense of, in terms of projecting that and making sure people are aware, to be aware of their bodies?
I think that is always something that is generational. And I find now that if you've been brought up in a household, and I'm talking our age, younger, older, I don't think it matters, but if you've been brought up in a household where things like that have been spoken about openly and it's just been kind of part of life, then they are more likely to kind of be aware of themselves and notice the changes and things. I think when it comes to that awareness of your body, there's a lot of people that have a bit of a disconnect with their body because of whatever. There's so many reasons that could cause that. But if you have that disconnect, these people probably aren't checking anyway. Like, they maybe know they should be, but they choose not to, and they probably won't ever check. And that, I think, is another massive barrier here, because then they're undiagnosed for however long and they're only actually there when their body's screaming at them.
Yeah, yeah.
Your body will give you whispers, and this is the advice that I kind of say to everybody. Your body will give you whispers. Don't ignore those whispers, because eventually that whisper is going to become louder, and that's when there's likely to be a problem. So if we can kind of educate around what is normal generally, and then let individuals relate to what is normal for them, and really help them understand and be aware of their body, then we're breaking down that barrier to an extent. But as you say, our age range, it then becomes actually life's taken over. They've got 2 kids running about. They're working a corporate, very busy job, and there's other issues there. There's other barriers, and it's a difficult one. It is difficult, but I just think the more awareness, the more we can shout from the rooftops of the importance, and have that coming from all aspects. Like, it's not me sharing the story about my breast here today isn't about me and it's not about my breast, but if it makes one person listen to this, check, is my body feeling good today? Is there anything untoward physically? Like, do you feel anything? Do you feel anything inside? And just not so much keeping a note of it, but just having that check-in with yourself, like mentally, physically. Is there something different? Is there anything that I should be doing differently to fix this?
Yeah.
I think you said about the torn hamstring, but if somebody has a sickness bug, they're going to take a day off and they're going to feel sorry for themselves until they stop being sick, right? So they stop and they reflect and they think, and it's like, oh, this is horrible. It's. But when it's something that isn't making them feel unwell, I think that often is the barrier as well. Oh, well, I feel fine, so it must be nothing.
Yeah.
And actually, well, no, because you're going to feel fine for quite a while before it actually becomes a serious problem a lot of the time.
Yeah. And obviously for you, like you've started, you know, to kind of go back to the social media aspect of it, you know, you've started doing this and you've got Omni and you've got a very kind of high presence on, like, you know, social media and things like that. I
try my best.
Yeah. Do you find that that's helping reach different demographics and engagement for the things that you want to speak about in terms of, you know, fitness and well-being?
I think different platforms give different results and different demographics. So Instagram for a while was my kind of sole social media, just because it was the thing that everybody told me I should be doing. It was the big one. And I find on there the majority of so I've actually got about a 50-50 split male-female follow, but a lot of the interaction and engagement, it's predominantly females on there. Whether that is because they're on social media more, I don't know. Whether that's their preferred platform, I don't know. But the place that I'm getting most traction and actually have signed my last 4 male clients from is LinkedIn.
Oh, really? Right.
So I only kind of stepped into the world of LinkedIn earlier this year, to be honest. I've had it sat kind of dormant, and I did a short course on it and was like, oh, actually, yeah, I'll start using this. And it's paid dividends in the fact that not only have I got clients from it, right, obviously I'm running a business, that's a win, we need that. But the biggest thing is the conversation. It's that education value that I can provide that then turns into really quite purposeful conversation, and people then take action. Like, I had a message just last night from a man who said, I've actually gone and spoken to the doctor about this because I've had this problem for a while. And it's like, great, like, I didn't even know you'd connected, like, I didn't know you were even seeing the content.
Right.
So it just shows that different demographics. Why it's more males on there, I don't know. I wish I did. I should probably start a bit of a social media analysis.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah.
I think like just maybe again, like, this is maybe like a kind of almost sexist statement, but it's maybe because it's such a business related
I guess so,
platform,
yeah.
you know, and you kind of find men will delve into that world, like, to like making connections and feeling and dealing.
Yeah, fair.
Going to be a little bit of that. I mean, it's not going to all be that, but yeah. But it's interesting though that you find that, and
there seems to be more valuable content when it comes to a cancer journey and stuff on LinkedIn too, I feel. Yes, there are people that are kind of vlogging their way through a journey and stuff on Instagram, and there is a very big community. I've noticed there's a big testicular cancer community on Instagram, but on LinkedIn I'm just feeling the conversation kind of goes wider than that. It goes wider than one specific cancer. Breast cancer is huge on Instagram too, but again LinkedIn seems to, I don't know, pull it all together almost and just kind of look at all aspects of a cancer journey rather than somebody's individual story, which everybody's story is different. So like you were saying earlier, it's easy to get caught up in somebody else's, what they're doing or what they've not doing or what symptoms they've got or not got, and wondering if you're then doing enough. And that whole comparison is the thief of joy, is so prevalent within this kind of community too.
I think it's so weird as well, even within this community, like, there is a keeping up with the Joneses aspect in for such a negative way. There is that, I have to be doing what they're doing, and it's trying to kind of convince people to, no, like, just focus on you and don't. And that's why I think, like, we tell these stories and we get people to tell their stories on here, and it's to say, look, this person is completely different for you. Yes, there's going to be similarities, and I've said this before. I was worried about when we started this podcast how it was going to be, you know, because you're just going to be talking TC all the time. It's always going to be testicular cancer after the other. And it was my wife had said to me, she went, but Paul, the cancer might be the same, but the people are different. And that was the thing that was like the eureka moment of, that's how I approach this then.
Absolutely. Because everybody is going through their own individual, like you might have had the same treatment as somebody else that you've spoken to, but how you dealt with that treatment and how they dealt with that treatment and how you, what else was going on in your life at the time. And there's so many factors, so many factors. And it is down to it being a different individual at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, we need to stop comparing and putting that pressure on and just slow down and actually reflect on where you're at and what you're going through and make a plan around that rather than worrying about what everybody else is doing. Social media has such a positive impact, but there's also so much, not negative as such, but you can be pulled into things, I think, quite easily and send you spiralling. Yeah,
and especially if you have a negative mindset, it's like anything, it's that confirmation bias. So you're always going to spiral into something that, you can find anything on social media that will confirm your narrative, you know, and that's not always good. But I've always said, you know, I think social media is great. It just, it's like conversations and people.
You've got to have boundaries, right? Like as an individual, you have to have boundaries around social media or else you can just get sucked in.
Yeah, completely. And even when we were posting stuff, like I'd never really look at the comments or anything like that, because I just post and ghost. I'm just like away. If somebody wants to be negative about something that I've said or whatever, it's like, great, I can't deal with that as much as anything because I've got so much else.
So much else that's more important
going on. Yeah, exactly. But it is such a great thing and that's why we use it, obviously, as for this platform as well.
And using it well. Like again, you're correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would imagine a lot of people who are following you are using what your content, your work really with the charity to make really positive steps towards a healthier them. And that's huge. Like that's impactful. And it's where social media is so powerful. And if social media gives somebody a kind of release and it's a way of them sharing their story, or if it's a way of them sharing advice, great. But there is that kind of, as an individual, you've got to be selective as to what you do and who you follow in and how that works for you in your life. Yeah, I know so many people that literally spend their whole evenings scrolling social media, like rather than doing something else or even watching telly, like they're literally just scrolling. And it is that instant gratification. You're getting that instant reward of, oh, okay, I've kind of escaped somewhere else with this dopamine hit. Yeah. And what is the benefit of it long term?
Yeah. It's not going to be any, is it?
Exactly. You forget what you've seen, by the time you got up the next day.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what was that thing? Oh, I can't remember. Yeah. See, for again, like in, cancer recovery and things like that, and you spoke earlier about mental health and physical health, coming hand in hand.
Yeah.
For you, as somebody who is in that fitness industry, how do you then look at mental health? How do you incorporate that into what you're doing with your clients and things like that?
So I guess we could talk sort of 3 stages, the prehab side of things. So you've been diagnosed, you're now getting your body into the strongest shape it could be to get through the treatment, going through treatment and then post-treatment. And the approach kind of remains the same and the benefits are very similar. So we know that exercise will reduce risk of recurrence, it reduces risk of side effects. I'm not saying you're not going to get side effects if you exercise through it. You still might, but your symptoms are less strong than if you weren't doing anything. It will help adherence to treatment. There's so many benefits with exercise, but like I said earlier, that mindset, that mental health side of things has to come hand in hand. So for the prehab side of things, obviously you've just been diagnosed, like that's huge. You're going through the grief of your old life, the worry and anxiety about what's coming next, the prognosis, how's this going to look? Am I going to be okay through my journey? So it's supporting that. Like as a coach, I feel that being there for somebody who is still coming to terms with the fact that is happening to them is huge. So using Techniques. So one of the things I did in my community learning days was I was a 7 Habits facilitator. So I used to train people in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And a lot of his theories kind of come into this cancer side of things. It's about controlling your controllables. What can you take control over? What are you going to kind of park for now that you can't have any control over? Acceptance is a huge thing. So, okay, it is what it is. It's not great, but what can I do to improve? And then techniques like, and you'll be picking up here, I'm such a big advocate for walking. Like, we have feet, go use them, right? Yeah. But getting out for a walk, but mindfully. So using mindfulness as a way of kind of calming your central nervous system that impacts scientifically that getting outside and moving in some way does for your central nervous system restoration. It's going to calm you down. It's going to set you up in a calmer place than what you were before. So doing that, some light stretching, but again, doing it mindfully. Eating well, but doing it mindfully, so really enjoying and savouring the taste of it. And then specific mindset techniques, journaling, like get those feelings out onto paper. If you don't like writing, record yourself talking, and you don't need to ever listen back, but actually processing that just for you. I journal every day, right? Nobody reads my journal. Mm-hmm. Nobody will ever read the journal. It's just me. So it's a way of getting those thoughts, worries, anxieties, reflections and processes out of your system and instantly will calm that central nervous system. Breathwork is another big one. So mental health, and the best kind of advice I could give, if breathwork sounds a bit kind of hippy-dippy to a lot of people, just think about it as in for 4 and then out for more. And you only need to do that a couple of times and you will feel instantly calmer. Mm-hmm. I've done it after being stuck in traffic and been late for something and literally been like the most frantic, really up to high-do. And I'll stop when I park the car and take a minute to do that. And instantly, it's like, okay, cool. I'm now recognising that I couldn't have controlled what's just happened. I'm ready to do whatever it is I need to do. Yeah. And in a cancer journey, you're going to have so many moments. It's an emotional roller coaster, as you know. You using those little techniques that don't take much time, they don't take much energy, but it's enough to give your body that little reset, and then you might be thinking clearer. Mm-hmm. But it's things like focusing on the other bits. So it all comes so hand in hand. Like if you're not sleeping properly because you are worrying about what's to come or whatever, it's trying to get into a routine of helping that. And often, not to get back into the social media chat, often when we're feeling worried, anxious, whatever, the first thing we do is pick up our phone and we scroll to take our mind off whatever it is that we're worrying about, the treatment, the operation, whatever that might be. So those little bits pre-op, pre-chemo help to kind of get you in a better mindset. Now, I want to kind of say, if you already struggle with your mental health and you get a cancer diagnosis, obviously that is going to be more profound than somebody whose mental health is in a pretty good place. Mm-hmm. So it's seeking advice from external providers. Like there's so many charities that offer support to people that are going through a cancer journey. Your GP, like there's lots of numbers you can call that are available 24/7, lots of services in every city that you can access. And I think if it's getting that bad, the biggest thing is that talk to somebody, talk to something even. Like I know a lot of people right now that are using ChatGPT to journal. So rather than getting pen to paper, they will ask ChatGPT, like, this is how I'm feeling, what can I do to make myself feel better? Yeah. And generally they'll come back with similar answers to what I've kind of just said there. But it's the same going through treatment. I think because of the fatigue, the side effects potentially that you're going to be facing, the physical pain of being cut open to have that surgery and stuff, could be frustrating. Actually, yeah, we got all the cancer, but you're like itching, champing at the bit to get back to normal, to feel how you felt before. Mm-hmm. So it's looking after your mind as much as you are your body, because if we do one and not the other, you're unlikely to be consistent and sustain something, one or the other. Yeah.
It's funny that you spoke about breathing, because that was actually one of my questions as well. It's like, because I found box breathing. Yeah. And I find it really, really helpful. And I find it really helpful in loads of different ways, because obviously I run quite hot. Yeah. So at night, like, even though it's not like minus temperatures. I run a cold bath, as cold as it'll go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to help me get to sleep.
Hot and cold therapy. It's another mental health.
And for me, it works,
help.
and it really helps me. But when you come closer into winter and you get that really, really cold water and you dump in, but see, doing box breathing while my face is just below the kind of above the waterline.
Yeah.
If it can work to reset your nervous system when you're physically feeling in shock, it is actually amazing what it can do when you're mentally feeling bad.
I think it's so difficult to. I know there's so many people, right? One of my best friends is literally just like, you're not talking about that again when it comes to meditation or yoga or whatever. She's just like, I don't need that. It's not for me. And it isn't for everybody. But I think until you've tried it and really got into it, you don't truly understand the benefits. It took me ages to get into meditation. Honestly, I would be like, right, I'm going to do it because there's so many benefits to this in life. And it took me weeks and weeks of just doing like a 5-minute guided meditation every single day. I wasn't even paying attention to the there was times that I'd literally be listening to this in the background and I'd be doing something else because I just couldn't. And now I use that again as every day. Like if I don't meditate in the morning, my other half knows I've not meditated when he comes home from work because I won't be the same person. It makes such a difference. And that would be the kind of biggest advice. Like if it's not something that you've ever thought you've needed or wanted to try it, but don't just try it once because it takes so much more than just that once to really, truly understand it. But do it, reflect on how you thought it went, whether that's writing it down, chatting to somebody about it, or just thinking about it on your commute. Like you're not going to get instant results from it. But with the breath work, I truly believe that you do get instant results from it. Like it's not, so meditation and journaling, things like that, yoga, getting into the routine of physically doing it. But breath work, you don't need anything else. You literally can do it anywhere without anybody looking at you and going, what are they doing? Like it's something that you can try. And box breathing's great. Like there are various methods of getting into breath work, and that's why I'm saying like the easiest way is just breathe in for 4, hold for a couple, and then out for more. You don't need to do anything more extreme than that in the early stages of that.
And even like that simple type of breathing that you're talking about, like when you're trying to fall asleep, if you can, because all you're doing is focusing on that count and that count again. And you do that a number of times, you will find yourself like I've done it so often where, not even just through treatment, but in just everyday life where you're going, right, I can't get to sleep. Okay, like just breathe. And
works better than counting sheep anyway.
It definitely does. It definitely does because it just kind of helps take away that one, fills you with more oxygen anyway, but then obviously it takes away that back of the head thought of whatever you're stuck on,
exactly.
You have to take it away. The
other one that works most of the time for the first time is a kind of body scan. So starting at your feet and really tensing the toes and tensing the ankles and working that, so tensing all the muscles in your body all the way up to your head and then letting it all release. So then really breathing that out. Again, you're not going to do that sat on a train, I don't suppose. But if you're sitting in your house or you're trying to get to sleep at night and the anxiety of what's happening tomorrow or whatever, or the kind of impact that the news you've just been given, that can have quite significant impact on your overall mindset. Like mental health and mindset aren't the same, but again, they need to be kind of together in the sense that to improve our mental health, we want to be doing these mindfulness related activity in order to improve our mindset. Because if you go into a cancer journey and you're like, oh, well, what's the point? Like, I've had such a rubbish prognosis. I'm going to have to go through this. I'm going to get all these side effects. Compared to somebody who's like, right, okay, I've got cancer, but there are things I can do to help. I'm going to take the treatment. I'm going to speak to this person. I'm going to see this surgeon. Like, I'm going to, until we don't have something positive, I don't have something to be positive about, I'm going to be positive. And the difference with that is phenomenal. Like, it is just phenomenal.
And there's so much out there as well. Nobody's going into meditation blind anymore.
No.
Like the one that I used when I actually started using it when I worked in intensive care during COVID, because we actually reached out to Headspace.
Nice.
And got codes so
they
that
were doing a lot of that during lockdown. It's good.
And got codes for the staff so that we could use this.
Yeah.
And having worked in mental health the previous 18 years before that, I always was one of those people who worked in mental health who was like very it's medication oriented.
The clinical side of it.
Where it's actually like when you then use like a Headspace. And I remember the first time using it, I was blown away by actually how much it was helpful.
Yeah.
And not only, during that kind of hard time in COVID, but see during my cancer treatment, and I think at the time, you maybe still can get it. You get it some episodes free with your next Netflix subscription. So if you're sitting just watching the telly and you're thinking, just take 10, I think it's 7-minute cycles, 7 minutes, bang, and you've done a bit of meditation for the day.
There's so many apps and stuff, and a lot of them are free now as well. Like even on YouTube, there's a lot that you can kind of go in and have that guidance as a way of getting into it. But it really, it's something that if you persist with, can make such a difference. And it goes for exercise as well. Like the benefits are there. Now there's been a number of studies around exercise and mental health through a cancer journey, and those who are kind of adherent and consistent with the small habits, whether it is walking or going to the gym or doing the breath work or the meditation, whatever that habit is that you build, they're more capable of coping with treatment. There was a study in Manchester, and it actually reduced the number of beds needed in a cancer recovery ward, because they were doing this programme of rehab and prehab. And it was substantial. I'm sure it was something like an extra, in fact, keep it simple before I get the stats wrong, the costs of the programme for exercise, mental health, mindset was covered by the reduction in beds in the hospital, which is massive. So I just think more of that kind of thing needs to be rolled out, and it become, again, back to what I was saying earlier, without getting political, become sort of standard care. Like, chemo, obviously, it's not going anywhere. It works. It gives people better quality of life in the long run and whatnot. Rather than it only being the clinical side of things, combine that with the holistic side of things and the exercise. And the exercise was getting called a wonder drug within the cancer world for a while because it was so underrated. And now with the kind of rollout of lifestyle medicine across Scotland, it's becoming more of a regular treatment, as is the mental health recommendations.
And within like your roles, like in your career, across your career and dealing with like, the kind of medical industry and things like that, what do you think then causes that separation of the medical and the holistic, because you always see that you either get people in one camp or the other. There doesn't seem to be a marriage between the two, and it only benefits if you do marry the two together. So I suppose, what do you find, and how can we mitigate that separation?
Again, unfortunately, it does kind of come down to where you're at, who you see. And even within the same GP practice, there will be one GP who says, oh yeah, you should try getting out for walks or exercising or going swimming or whatever. And then another GP in the practice will say, yep, rest up, eat whatever you want, just make yourself feel comfortable and happy, kind of thing, like do your thing. And that still happens to this day. Ultimately, to answer the question, I think it all comes down to funding. There's a lot of people out there who are shouting from the rooftops, me one of them, about the benefits of exercise. But until there is kind of a central pot of money, so there's a lot of places across Scotland just now trialling like health workers who are essentially doing the job I do, but they're based in a GP practice and they're used as prescription. So prescription for exercise. I get some referrals for other conditions and some cancers. Again, it very much depends on the person, the circumstance, the funding. But a lot of it just comes down to funding, and NHS at the minute are focused on treatment. They're focused on fixing the problem, which, yes, requires clinical treatment. But NHS recently announced they've got their 10-year plan to kind of go down a more preventative route. And I think we will see some big changes. I think it's a really exciting time to be part of this journey, this industry. Because of that, I think if it all happens, they are going to start to look at more of a prevention, more of a holistic recovery base, looking at it all kind of joining up together. And there's a lot of really, really key people within the NHS and within private healthcare that are pretty vocal about the benefits as well. And I think that's really all we can do, is to try and, because the more people that talk about it and the more evidence-based science that we have, the more likely we are to get the funding to put on these groups. It's the same with anything. So again, another kind of personal thing, but my granddad recently had a heart attack. He's also got prostate cancer. So there was a bit of a confusion around his medication and what he should be doing and how it should continue. And he was told, wait until you see your rehab specialist and then your oncologist, and they'll kind of match something up. He has had an initial meeting with his cardiac rehab, but it's no date. They're too full. There's too many people on these programmes and on waiting lists and stuff for them. And it's the same with the cancer ones and the diabetes. Like, it doesn't matter. Anybody that has an illness generally will benefit from doing more exercise, but the waiting lists are just not getting through them, and that's causing barriers as well. If you live a bit more rural, you're not going to want to come into Glasgow City Centre to do this course, because that's where there's a space come up 8 weeks later, 10, 12, 15, you know. You've kind of, well, I'm back living my life, I feel okay again. Why am I going to go and do that now, sort of thing. So it is just a more joint approach that I think is going to make a difference. And as I say, it is getting better. There's a lot of pilot projects available at the minute, but you've got to be in the right place at the right time, almost, to access them.
Yeah, it does seem like that. It is that kind of right place, right time, and some people can be missed. And that rural thing is something that we've even came across as Cahonas in terms of getting just even our messaging out. You know, it's getting into rural areas and trying to kind of make sure that these places get access to our information. And one of the things that, and I was actually me and Mark were talking about this earlier on, one of the big things for testicular cancer patients, especially because obviously we're men, we've got testosterone that we have, and obviously losing that testicle depletes that testosterone thing. I suppose then it's talking about why exercise is important for testosterone production, you know, and it's something that I didn't really know about until I was getting tested for my low T. What is it that guys can then do to help? Is just all exercise good for that, or is it specific things?
I mean, no exercise is bad. Like, let's start there. And I genuinely say this and mean it when I say it. You've got to enjoy the exercise, right? Yes, there are things that can be done that are more beneficial for testosterone, for hormone balance generally. However, you have to find that thing that's going to spark you. Like, there's no point saying, oh yeah, go and get into lifting weights, which ultimately is what I would say would be key here to answer that question. Strength training is key, not just for that, but for a lot of other things. But if you don't enjoy strength training, then playing football or going for a swim or playing golf.
Or walking.
Still walking. I was trying to avoid that there again. I thought I'll be saying this too many times. But no, it is, you've got to find something that's going to motivate you and gives you drive. Like, there is no, I get asked all the time, right? It's one of the biggest things that are in my DMs. What is the best exercise I can do when I have testicular cancer, when I have breast cancer, when I've whatever, right? Yeah. And my reply kind of remains the same regardless. Obviously, there are cancer specific, there are rehab specifics for your treatment, for your symptoms and stuff. But generally, there is no such thing as the best exercise. It used to be, what's the best exercise I can do to get a flat stomach? That was everywhere, right? There is no best thing. We can't really spot target anywhere, anything. And it would be so wrong of me to sit here and say, yeah, there's this one great thing that you're going to do. That's because ultimately moving more in any way that makes you happy, that makes you feel like you're accomplishing something, that gives you energy, that works for the energy levels that you're at, is going to make a difference. Like, I wish there was a specific thing. I feel like your listeners are probably like, come on, give me one specific thing that's going to make a huge difference.
No, I don't think so. I just think it's good to know that, though, that it isn't just one specific thing. I think that that is helpful to know as well, that you don't have to worry about, like, you know, you don't have to worry about yeah, strength training is obviously going to be something that's going to be really beneficial for that. But the fact that you can do just more anyway, and that is going to be helpful, I think that in itself is helpful to know.
I think it's so important to say now too, though, a lot of people think of exercise. If I was to say what is exercise to general population, they would say it's going to the gym, it's playing a sport, it's those things that we see. If we were to type exercise in, that's the images that are going to come up.
Yeah.
But exercise is anything that gets your heart rate and your go up and your respiratory rate up, and that puts strain through your muscles, right? It doesn't matter what it is. I've got a client right now who's working with me for more of the kind of account, like I'm not programming anything for him in terms of exercise. He solely uses the garden and walking as his exercise. He's also got grandchildren that he runs after. But that's activities of daily life, right? They count. Doing the housework counts, washing the car counts. Like, it's moving, it's getting us more active than we were previously. So I'm not saying that's all you should do, but if it's building on where you're currently at, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with making that a starting point as well. Like, movement is exercise. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the kind of what you would envisage exercise to mean. We don't have to be throwing weights around. We don't have to be kicking a ball around or doing push-ups or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you're moving more than you were, you're benefiting your overall health.
Yeah.
Like.
And I think that's really helpful to know, like, again, because you're going to get guys who, like you say, there's going to be guys who have had testicular cancer who are very active and guys who aren't active at all. And I think it's, everybody talks about training and exercise, you know, when you look at, you know, people who are right into it, but it's like it's some kind of Rocky training montage, and it doesn't have to be that.
No, of course
you know,
not.
it's like you beat it, you ring the bell, and it's all this you know, type of thing. And it's, but I suppose that's what it is. It's, you know, nobody really talks about the bits after. Yeah. You know, and it's the quiet part, the mornings where your body doesn't feel great. You know, you kind of feel like you're made of cardboard and regret.
I think on that sort of note as well, I think the biggest thing that people can do in their recovery and their journeys is to have some sort of goal. But that goal doesn't need to be running a marathon or lifting 100 kilos again. Like, it doesn't have to be those exercise-based goals. It could literally just be your goal is to exercise every day for 10 minutes minimum. And getting that structure is enough of a goal at certain times. As you move through your journey, your goal will move, your goal will grow. You'll find something else that you want to add on or build on. But it's something simple that you're going to feel motivated to do it. And a lot of people going through a cancer journey, because a lot of my clients at the moment are kind of our age and older, their main goal is to be able to be as fit and healthy for their children or their grandchildren despite having cancer. Like, it doesn't, they don't want it to stop them being able to play with their kids and do the garden and run up the stairs and push them in the buggy and whatever that thing is. And that ultimately can be enough of a goal to keep you motivated. But it's just making sure you've got something that is there. Like, and it isn't always just about the cancer. Like, obviously you exercise when you've got cancer and your goal is to fight cancer, right? Yeah. But it doesn't define you. So have something else that's super, super important to you. Yeah. And build on that and make that activity, that exercise, that movement part of your overall lifestyle. Yeah.
I completely agree, and it's something that I didn't really understand until, like, it really, I think I got caught in the trap of the woe is me thing, right? I blamed my cancer for everything, you know, like low testosterone. I blamed my cancer for, you know, my poor mental health. I blame my cancer for not exercising. I blame my cancer for getting fat. Do you know what I mean? It's like I blamed it all on that, and I think it's only in the last wee while, and that's the biggest thing for me was, like, I didn't want to be that, you know, mid 40s to 50-year-old man who couldn't run about after his kids. Yeah, you know, and that's why, you know, I'm just trying really my hardest now. Like, I put so much for 2 years. I think I spent fighting this thing where I was, and my testosterone was low. It was that was just a fact. But I put so much emphasis on that I was actually, you know, I'm actually kind of shaking talking about it, because it's like I had such a negative impact on me where I I blamed it on everything. It was like, well, this is why my mood's low. It's because I was fixated on it.
On that.
And it's just trying
Which is understandable to an extent. It's such a life-changing journey. So it is understandable. So how did you get through that?
I think more it was just like talking about it and being a little bit honest with myself. I think that was the biggest thing. I think I had to quickly go, right, okay, this is everything that's happening. You're being told by medical professionals that, Paul, there's nothing that we can do to help you with this. So I had to get over myself, and that's so easier said than done.
If you're stuck in that trap, it's not just flick a switch and you feel better, you feel...
And it wasn't working, and I think it's just looking at that and having the ability to challenge yourself. And there's a really good book called The Courage to be Disliked, right? And I didn't read, the entirety of it, but there were certain aspects of it that made me challenge myself to then go, actually, this isn't where my mindset should be. I have to then reset and go, right, start from now, start from who you are here and move on now. You're not Paul of, before I had my cancer diagnosis, I done 2 charity runs for Cahonas. Like I ran 5k a day every day for a month, I ran 10k a day every day for a month, and then my cancer experience defined me for a long time. And even within this role and this job, I tried my hardest to not, but I can't not. So then that's exactly what I had to do. I had to go stop, restart, and you're Paul 2025.
Yes.
Just move on for there. And it's like, so what's your goal? It's to lose weight. It's to exercise more. Forget everything else that's happened. Yeah. And I suppose that's the one thing I'd want to say to the guys who are listening is, don't get in your own way. Really take the time to not focus on it. It's hard not to focus on it.
Of course it is, yeah.
But it's something that, just focus on who you are as a person there and now.
I think you kind of nailed this in the sense that it is kind of easy to get stuck at any stage of a cancer journey. You can't get out of that rut almost, like you're there. But what you said there, you spoke about it, you processed it, like you made some changes, you thought about your future essentially. I think it's again going back to that sort of starting where you're at right now and not making the goal some heroic workout, making it tailored to how you feel that day. Like what you did yesterday, you may have, whatever stage of a cancer journey, you might have gone and done something that you were like, yes, I'm rocky, like I've done amazing. And the next day, all you're really capable of is going for a walk around the garden. And that's fine, but using that knowledge and using the support systems that you've got to build on where you're at, and just always remember that it's not just about motivation. Like a lot of people think that when they're in that rut almost, it's, I've just not got motivation because of all of those things that you've just listed. However, it's the support that a lot of people are missing. It's the feeling safe to do those things. It's the support of somebody to hold you accountable to doing the things that you say you're going to do. It's the realistic plan of action, the realistic goals that you're setting. So it isn't always just about motivation. There's an element of discipline in it, and it's that discipline with yourself to be able to get you out of that almost. Like it isn't just a nice to have, is it? It's essential for your survival. Like you need to get through that somehow, or you're going to be stuck in that rut forevermore. Yeah,
and it's something that, if we can put that out there into the world and hopefully make folk realise that as well, and it can only be a positive thing and a positive change. And obviously, speaking of that positive change and impact, as we kind of, we could probably talk all day in this, but as we wrap up, for people who are in the start of their cancer journey, the middle of their cancer journey, or at the end of their cancer journey, what, from your perspective, is your advice and about exercise or mental health, about nutrition? What is it that you think that you could kind of give to them that would ultimately be positive steps?
There's a few things, and I think it's more of a summary of what we've kind of spoken about today, because I just think there's so much pressure to do things that you see online or that you hear stories of other people achieving. On the way here today, I listened to the podcast with, and now the name has escaped me, but the guy that did the marathon from, the ultra marathon, from where he was treated Royal Marsden to Loughborough.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah. And it's like, you could listen to that and be like, wow, that's amazing. I should maybe try and do something like that, which is great if you're that way inclined. That's my worst nightmare, doing an ultra marathon that long, right? But that equivalent can be you getting up out of your bed and walking around the park, then walking around the park twice, and then walking around the park 3 and 4 times, and so on, and building on it. So it really is about believing that it's never too late. And I mean that even if you're listening to this as somebody supporting somebody going through a cancer journey, it's never too late. Like, exercise helps prevent cancer too. Like, start moving more than you currently are. Look at where you're at. What's your baseline? What do you feel like is achievable in your life? Because the clients that I've had that have been elsewhere and they've been given programs for an hour session 3 times a week from nothing, they fail, and then they feel like a failure, and they feel more like a failure than they did before they started. The clients that I coach and we start with 10 minutes 3 times a week get results. They're consistent, they're still with me, but now they're doing that hour 3 times a week, and they're doing it with their eyes shut, like it's second nature to them, and they've managed to do that throughout their cancer journey too. So biggest advice, do you, be you, like focus on only you. Don't compare yourself to anybody else going through a similar journey. Don't compare yourself to anybody you see online. Just do what works for you, and know that exercise is beneficial. Eating well is beneficial. Nutrition, take it back to basics. Like, we don't need any of this fancy fads that we hear and see on online and things. Eat raw foods. Try and focus on the colours that you eat every day. Like, take it back to basics. If you can't understand or say the ingredient in a packaging, try and avoid it. Pick something else that's got ingredients that you actually know what they are. Like, nutrition-wise, exercise-wise, mindset-wise, take it back to basics. With the mindset side of things, we live in this society that is just go, go, go all the time, wherever you are in life. Take a minute. Just take a minute to just be. Like, one of the biggest things that I say, go outside in the morning for your cuppa and just be there. Don't take your phone with you. Try and not have your kids with you. Just be you, yourself, and the calmness that will bring, regardless of what else is going on in your head or your life around you. Start small and build up and control what you can. Don't worry about the things that you can't control. Do the things that you can have control over and that you know can make a difference, but don't jump in at the deep end. The biggest cause for lack of adherence in an exercise programme, doing it all at once. If you're not eating healthy, if you're not moving your body, you're not doing any mindfulness technique at all, and you try all of a sudden, I'm just going to do all of these things all at once. I'm going to reduce my calorie intake, I'm going to eat clean, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to join the gym. If you do all that at once, the chances are you're not sustaining that for longer than that first few days, because it's overwhelming, it's too much, particularly if you're already dealing with the side effects of a treatment, or you're just come to terms with the news that you have cancer. Like, be kind to yourself, and exercise counts regardless of what it is. That's probably the best advice I could give. It's awesome. It's honestly, it's perfect. And so what's next for you and Omni, and how can people get in touch with you? So, next for me on the kind of big things that I have coming up, I am releasing a couple of free to access PDFs and webinars around exactly this topic. So if anybody wants access to those, then get in touch, which I will share shortly. I think the more we can get this message out, the better. So that's a couple of things that I have available, that are kind of available to download from the website without any obligation to do or buy anything. And I think that's so important too. Like, this shouldn't just be for people that can afford to pay for me to coach them one-to-one, by the way. Like, that's not what I'm all about. I think it's so important that everybody gets the same access. You can find me, either my website is livingomni.com, and my Instagram is Lou_livingomni.
Brilliant. And we'll put in the links in the description of the episode. Amazing. And all that, and get that out there for you as well. So, Louise, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Honestly, it's great to, again, just have different voices and have different topics of conversation on this. So you've inspired me today, and hopefully everybody who listens, you'll inspire them as well.
Go move today. Why wait?
Go out a walk.
Yes.
Well,
thank you.
Thanks, Rob.